Destiny 2's Lightfall expansion is coming out in just over a month, and players are getting huge new drops of information coming directly from Bungie themselves, including one in an interview from PC Gamer today where they talk about changes to resilience, damage buffs, and other system changes that are coming with the latest and greatest expansion hitting Destiny 2 on February 28, 2023. Hey everybody, I'm Little Bobby here with 59 Gaming Direct, and today we're talking about Destiny 2's Lightfall expansion and the interview with PCGamer.com titled Exclusive Bungie Answers Our Burning Questions About Build Crafting in Destiny 2's Lightfall. We're going to break down all of this for you today and ask, if you are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell to stay up to date with all the news, reviews, and other content we put out here on this channel. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you don't enjoy it, hit that dislike button and let us know what we can do better next time. So with this interview, it looks like we had PC Gamer interviewing Rodney Thompson, who is a design lead for Destiny 2 and is currently working on the Lightfall expansion coming to the game in late February. So to kick off this interview, PC Gamer asks, it looks like the cost of resilience and intelligence mods have changed. Can you share any other changes? Thompson says, there has been a general reduction of average armor mod costs across the board, with all non-stat modifying mods costing between 1 and 3 energy. And if you're a Destiny 2 player, you know that the mod system has been great, but some mods cost a ridiculous amount of energy. Something like this season's Unstoppable Grenade Launcher mod, which stops champions which are in almost every type of hardcore endgame content, costs 7 energy out of 10, and that really leaves you with almost nothing to put anything else on. So seeing these go down from 1 to 3 for every non-stat modifying mod, I think would be great. PC Gamer then goes on to ask, will Resilience's damage resistance scale work the same way in Lightfall? Thompson responds, we've tuned the curve a little bit. At the top end, Tier 10 Resilience will provide 30% damage reduction against combatants, down from 40% in the live game now. But we've also made the progression smoother, so at lower tiers you will get more value from resilience without feeling like you have to max it out at tier 10 to get a benefit. Now for me, I'm okay with this. I do feel like it kind of is a little punishing for those people who aren't quite as good at the game, and that's one of those things. I've seen a lot of especially streamers talking about how, hey, 40% is OP. Well, when you play the game for a living, yeah, anything's gonna feel OP unless it like absolutely punishes you just for moving and existing in the game, right? You see a lot of these streamers who play this game for like, 60 hours a week, if not more, going, hey, I need something that's really going to test me and challenge me. And it's, at this point, the game is not made for you anymore. It's made for a more casual audience. And that's, it's okay, because casting that bigger net and having that wider audience means that the game makes more money, which means that the game survives longer and creates and puts out better content. This season's content, for example, has been great. I think the Warmind content is some of my favorite content that's ever been introduced in the game. The content 2 seasons ago, bringing back the Leviathan, that was absolutely huge. And even though the expedition from last season's content to me was a big miss, I thought the catch crash activity was fantastic. That's the content in this live service game that I would absolutely love to see. Now, do I want the game to hand me everything? No. Do I think there should be end game pursuits? Yes. Do they need to be so inaccessible to the general populace that only those people who play the game for 60 hours a week can complete them? No. And that's where I disagree with a lot of the people who create content for Destiny specifically. I really think that this game does need to be accessible to more and more people, because that helps build a bigger and better community. But thankfully, it wasn't like some streamers were requesting, oh, it should be only 10% at most, because at that point, there's almost no reason to run resilience anymore, because you can get that or more than that from certain mods right now. But moving forward, PC Gamer asks, is there an equivalent to the current Font of Might mod that will trigger a damage buff when you pick up a Fire Sprite, Void Breach, Ionic Trace, or Stasis Shard? Thompson says, there are leg armor mods that provide a bonus to weapon damage of a specific type when you have any stacks of armor charge, which will decay 1 charge at a time when you have one of these mods equipped. The base damage bonus is the equivalent of high energy fire at 10%, but multiple copies of these mods can be stacked to increase the damage bonus further, with 3 copies of the mod at 22%, getting pretty close to Font of Might's current damage bonus. Unlike Font of Might, you can pick which damage type the bonus applies to, and it is not limited to matching your subclass type. You can even mix and match. Say 2 mods that grant bonuses to your solar weapons and 1 mod that grants a bonus to your kinetic weapons, as fits your loadout. Armor charge at its base comes from picking up Orbs of Power. However, we have some mods that give you other ways of getting armor charge, and in Season 20, one of the artifact perks will allow you to gain stacks of armor charge when picking up a fire sprite. Now, maybe I'm just a little out of the loop, but I hadn't heard of fire sprites or void breaches before this, but seeing as how they're being lumped in with Ionic Trace and Stasis Shard, one can assume that Bungie is going out of their way to make new types of these pickups that come with each subclass, right? If you look at an Ionic Trace, when you kill an enemy, those will run towards you across the ground, kind of finding where you're at. A Stasis Shard will kind of sit there unless you have the tracking shards subclass aspect on. I forget what that's called off the top of my head, but there is one aspect that allows the shards to track towards you. There are definitely both positives and negatives to this change. I don't like that they're taking Font of Might and making it weaker overall. However, I do like the fact that you can kind of pick and choose what you want to add the damage bonus to instead of being locked into a single subclass. That was very limiting, although sometimes you could really make it work. For example, with Monochromatic Maestro this season, you have got definitely some very strong builds. One of my favorite builds being a Roar of the Bear with Demolitionist and auto-loading holster, the Starfire Protocol Warlock Fusion Grenade build, and then using Witherhoard and the Callus mini tool to keep all those things keeps me cranking out a pretty insane amount of damage, especially in the new dungeon. And it's just a shame that stuff like that won't be possible, those really crazy power boosts like they were now, but at the same time, overall it's going to allow for more freedom, which I think is going to be good for the game. After that, PC Gamer asks, do armor charge mods that have a passive effect see their charges decay at the same rate, or does it vary between mods? Thompson says, it's all the same rate, and having multiple mods that give passive benefits do not cause charges to fall off faster. So even if you have a different passive benefit armor charge modded every armor piece, you will still only decay one stack of armor charge every 10 seconds or longer if you equip the time dilation mod, which extends the decay timer. This sounds pretty interesting in my opinion because it's going to allow for those timers to be kind of running. The one thing I hope they can adjust is the buff counter display that tends to happen over the kill feed, because right now it is a mess. If you have more than 4 buffs or debuffs going on, this can happen in dungeons and raids really easily. They just get pushed off and you don't know what's going on with your buffs and debuffs. So hopefully they can clean that up somehow and show us more information for that. PC Gamer then asks, do Fire Sprite, Ionic Traces, Void Breaches, etc. all grant the same amount of ability energy? Thompson says, no, each is tuned for the damage type. I think this is kind of a net positive, because if you're really building into something like the all solar or all arc build, especially like Titans do right now, you're going to see those Ionic Traces or Fire Sprites, what have you, really boosting it for your arc or for your solar class, depending on what you're using. At least that's what it sounds like to me. PC Gamer then goes on to ask, will weapons that already trigger elemental effects, for example, Aeger's Scepter can slow and shatter, Darcy causes jolt, now be able to stun the corresponding champions when they apply those effects? Thompson says, yes. Anything that can create one of the keyworded effects will work as a counter to the champions weak to them. Personally, I'm looking forward to this change. I think they said they're planning on adding more verbs to a lot more weapons. I assume that means exotics. And I am assuming Bungie's goal here is to have every exotic have an intrinsic ability to disarm a champion in some way, right? Because for right now, we already know that every single subclass is going to be able to do that, depending on if you have Jolt, Scorch, or Volatile on your character. When doing something like a Grandmaster Nightfall, you should be able to get those effects going now, and I think that is really going to open up a lot of variety. Obviously, we know that Hunters can do really great things when it comes to Scorching. Warlocks and Titans tend to be really good with Jolt, and I think after these nerfs, we're going to see a lot more Warlocks if you're running Arc, because that Fallen Sunstar Warlock business is really strong, and that really gets Jolt going very easily. And we know Titans, while they are getting reined in on the Arc side, are a powerhouse when it comes to Void. And I could easily see the meta of a Grandmaster Nightfall at this point being an Arc Warlock, a Solar Hunter, and a Void Titan. That way you get that bubble to help with damage and kind of protect you. You're not reliant solely on a well anymore, which I think would be very nice for a lot of Warlock mains. And Hunters get to do the Golden Gun thing if they want to, which I think is going to be a lot of fun for a lot of Hunter players who are used to having to go invis for GMs. PC Gamer then asks, where weapons have different perk options, for example, a choice of magazines, can the loadout manager save those accordingly? And Xavier Durand Hollis, another design lead, answers, yes, weapon perk choices are saved via loadouts. And this is great, especially if you're one of those people who runs a lot of core activities. I tend to play a lot of Crucible. I tend to do a good amount of strikes every season. So I end up with weapons that have multiple perks on them, especially my Crucible weapons. Almost all my Crucible weapons will have 2 to 3 perks in every slot. But even if you don't have that, if you just got the magazine choices or the barrel choices and what have you, you'll be able to save those to make sure your weapon is ready to use it as soon as you pick them through that loadout. PC Gamer then asks, will a loadout be able to include your ship, Sparrow, Emblem, Ghost, finishers, etc.? And Tyson Green, a creative director at Bungie, comes in to close out this interview. Not at this time, but loadouts could expand to include some of those in the future, for example, finishers. PC Gamer asks, is it 10 loadout slots per Guardian or per account? And Green says, per Guardian. And this is one of the most important things. If it was 10 loadout choices per account, I do not think that would be sufficient, and I think Bungie knows that, right? I have a Warlock. Sometimes I need to play raids with a Void Warlock. Sometimes I need to play him with a Solar Warlock. Sometimes I need to play Gambit. But sometimes I need to play Crucible, and I want to play with a hand cannon and a sniper, and sometimes I want to play with a pulse and a grenade launcher, or a pulse and a shotgun. So having those different loadout options is crucial, and having 10 per Guardian I think is going to be enough for most people for a long time, unless you're one of the really, really hardcore players. I want to commend Bungie on that, because 10 loadout slots per Guardian is exactly what we needed. PC Gamer then asks, do you expect to add more loadout slots over time? Green says possibly, but we do not have plans to add more loadout slots just yet. Again, I think 10 is enough for now. Maybe having some more later, if they add more activities and things like that, might be good, but seeing as how most of the seasonal activities go away at the end of the year, I think we should be okay. PC Gamer then goes on to ask, how long is it likely to take to unlock all 10 slots? Green says loadout slots are unlocked by completing Guardian ranks. Any existing character who has completed the new light experience will have most slots unlocked immediately, with additional slots unlocked at higher ranks. New Guardians will unlock them as they increase their rank. Now, I have one question about this, because I did the new light campaign thing on my Warlock just to see what it was like. I haven't done it on my Titan or on my Hunter, because I've been playing the game since it launched on all 3 characters, and I'm just wondering, since I haven't done that new light experience, quote unquote, on those characters, am I gonna have all 10 unlocked? Hopefully we can get some clarification from that from Bungie officially before Lightfall drops, because honestly I would rather not have to run through that again on both my other characters when I've been playing this game since it launched. And the final question from PC Gamer is, you announced that the match game modifier is being removed from all high difficulty activities. What kind of activities will the modifier still be used in? Green says it may show up on special activities in the future when we want to deliberately tweak the gameplay in an unexpected direction, but no specific plans to do so at this time. I like this. Match game has made the game too stale, too boring for too long. I hate match game, and I know most people do too. That's why a lot of people were excited when adaptive munitions came in as a perk, because it allowed you to use more weapons and just do damage to shields. Yeah, sure, it wasn't the full amount of boosted damage you got from using the same elemental affinity, but you still were able to make sure that you got some damage in, and I think removing that perk altogether just makes the game so much more smooth and so much less just slogging through, especially the in-game activities like Grandmaster Nightfalls. Great change on the behalf of Bungie. And that's it. There's a lot of information here, and I think a lot of it is very, very good. At this point, I'm very, very hopeful for Lightfall. Sure, there are a few changes that I don't really like, but I think having a brand new subclass with a lot more movement tech, as well as a whole slew of new options for endgame content, is going to make the game feel very, very fresh and be something that I think a lot of long-time players, either lapsed players or players who are starting to feel burnt out, hopefully they can get something in here in this new expansion that will let them feel rejuvenated and with the game. Personally, I've been taking something of a break. I still log in to play every week, but maybe 10 hours where I used to play maybe 20 or more, especially on a week where I was really getting into it. You know, never hitting those 40, 50, 60 hour marks like I used to back in the day, but still enjoying the game quite a bit. And I think that a lot of people are really going to have something good to say about Lightfall, especially if the campaign is as good as the Witch Queen campaign was. Let's hope that wasn't a fluke, because that legendary campaign was some of the most fun I've ever had in a Destiny game. Bungie, Keep up the good work. Let's see how Lightfall goes when it comes out February 28th. We're going to be playing it here on 5.9. We're going to be doing raids, checking out the story content. I'll be here, Talon will be here, and if anyone else wants to join, you're welcome to stop by the channel. We'll be streaming it here on YouTube when it comes out, so make sure you subscribe and stop by before then. Again, I'm Little Bobby here with 5.9 Gaming Direct. Thank you so much for watching today. Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell if you're new, hit that like if you enjoyed this video, dislike if you didn't enjoy this video, and let us know down in the comments what we can do better for next time. Thank you again so much for watching, and we hope to see you soon.